I'll be reading Romans 1, verse 16 from the NIV. I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile.
Oh, Canada. I get carried away when I see the national flag. I'm here today to present a little bit about my home country, Canada. I guess that makes me qualified to some extent, but I certainly don't consider myself a missionary yet. But certainly there's a lot of work to be done in Canada. And since I've been here in January, I've been so amazed at all of the wonderful work that comes out of this place. I mean, from all the way from Cambodia, South Africa, Mexico City, and even all the opportunities here in the U.S., in the Pacific Northwest, New England. And I just hope that this morning I can just raise a little bit more of an awareness. I might not be preaching the word, but certainly I'm preaching where the word needs to be preached. Oh, I forgot my little clicker there. Oops, yeah, thanks. So I'm not sure what you think about when you think about Canada. I don't know. I kind of put a few images up, and here's a picture of some Mounties. I actually asked a couple weeks ago some people, do you know what Mounties are? And they were like, no. I was like, oh, okay. So I kind of explained that they're like Texas Rangers, a British version of Texas Rangers that like to dress in red and wear funny hats, and they got it. So that worked out. Another national icon, of course, is the beaver. Yeah, they're really cute. They're really fuzzy. But when they decide to build a dam in the back of your house and flood your basement, they're not so cute. They're not so cute. And of course, ice hockey. I'm sure if you think about Canada, you think of ice hockey. And yes, it's true. Boys, when they turn 2, can instantly skate. It just happens. And of course the that's right. The trees, the maple trees. This reminds me a lot of home, and the colors and whatnot. And of course, maple syrup comes from trees. And of course, snow. And snow is all that bad. It's not all that bad. It can be cold, but it's also very beautiful. And when you know how to have fun in snow, there's nothing greater. So when I think about Canada, I have to confess that, at least before I became a Christian, my heart was really into the outdoors. And Canada is full of beautiful scenery and just awe-inspiring scenes of God's creation. And I'm really thankful I had that, because I think that's what brought me to the Lord, a love for creation and then a love for my Creator. But now, since being here and also for a little while, my heart's really been pricked. And when I think about Canada now, I really think about the people. And this is just a picture of a celebration of Canada Day. You can tell just from this one picture that Canada is very multicultural. It has people from all over the world. To be exact, there's about 33 million people. That's about 10% of the population of Canada, or U.S., population of the U.S. And I think it's about the population of Mexico City. And this is spread over a country that's, just a bit smaller than China. It's kind of interesting. Maybe it has to do with the weather, but 80% of the population live 100 miles from the U.S. border. So, and interesting enough, the main driver is immigration, right? And it's people from, like I said, all over the world. Actually, 1 in 10 refugees find their homes in Canada, which is quite interesting. So here's just a map. So we don't have states, we have provinces. There's 10 of them, maybe because we can't count to 50. But there's 10 provinces and 3 territories up north. And my previous secular work, I had a chance to actually travel to most of these cities a few times. And Canada's fairly diverse, and there's quite a few urban centers there. Toronto being the biggest, there's about 6 million people there. There's Montreal with a couple million people, Vancouver as well, and where I'm from, Ottawa, has about 1 million people. Is it working here? Yeah. So I guess you're aware that there's French and English spoken in Canada. I don't know, fortunate or unfortunate that I can speak both, or I guess a combination of both. But it gives you an idea where people are living as well, this particular map. All the white that you see is, there's not many people that live there. It's all wilderness. But you can see that the Canada is a bit divided, where Quebec has most of the French-speaking people, where the rest of Canada speak English. And that's caused some interesting cultural differences as well. So it's kind of sad to report that Christianity is declining in Canada. And I was looking at some stats this week, and it's pretty wild that in 2001, there was 77% of the population that claimed they were Christian. But in 10 years later, or just over 10 years later, that's down to 51%. I mean, that's just over 10 years. And one of the main reasons is that there's a growing segment of the population that considers themselves simply just non-religious. And this is because of a lot of secular views. They see the idea of organized religion as not something that they need in their lives, and they choose not to associate with it. And just to compare, the U.S. is still at 73%. I think there's maybe some issues here in the U.S. as well, but Canada, I think, is facing quite a lot. And as you know, a Christian nation has to have 50% to be considered Christian, right? So we're just a couple of points away from being a non-Christian nation, which really hurts me. I mean, another thing too is that same-sex marriage is now legal in Canada over the last 10 years. And abortions as well. I mean, the government will pay for abortions to be done if that's your choice. So there's certainly a lot of issues, and there's a lot of things to consider when you think about Christianity in Canada. Now, just to give you a picture of the Churches of Christ in Canada, there's a publication called the Gospel Herald that comes out, and they do a survey every 10 years, which is very useful. It kind of gives you an idea of where people are and how things are doing. There's roughly 150 congregations, but that's a little dated. It's more like 140 now, with an average size of 45 members. And interestingly enough, even though the 30% of the population speaks French and only French, there's only 3 French congregations. And one of those in Montreal is completely Haitian, which speaks to the multicultural aspects as well. This is actually a picture of the church building where I used to attend in Ottawa. And it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you can recognize the building, but it's actually a Texas-designed building. And in the 50s, there's a group that came and planted 5 churches from Texas. Unfortunately, they didn't really understand that, building something with no insulation and not considering the winter months. It's kind of funny that the doors in the winter will actually freeze shut if you're not careful. But it's so encouraging that they came and were able to set up these congregations and gives us a place to meet, and we're certainly very grateful for that. I mean, in total, if you put those numbers together, there's less than 7,000 members in the Churches of Christ in Canada. I don't know if you can put that in your heads, but there's probably more Christians here in Lubbock than there is in all of Canada, to give you an idea. And one key issue, I believe as well, is the leadership. There's only 1 in 3 congregations that have elders there, and very, very few trained ministers. Actually, the strongest congregations there are in Canada are still led by Americans who have come up and made Canada their life's work, like names like Max Craddock and Walter Hart and a few others. And I know Jerry Tallman's been up to a few of those congregations, and if you want to talk to him about that, he can tell you a little bit how things, and there's not a sense of the future. Everybody's kind of thinking back to the days where things were growing. And very little, at least I know in Ottawa, not many people are focused on evangelism, and not least organized evangelism. And there just needs to be, there isn't really any training that you can get for leadership in Canada. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I guess I'm here. There was a school in Western Canada that unfortunately closed last year that trained ministers. And there's another school in Southern Ontario, but you have to pay a significant amount, get a student loan to get there. But they only have 2 or 3 students. So there's a real need for training. So I guess on the positive side, this really means there's a lot of mission opportunities. I mean, it really is quite encouraging to just come here and be equipped and just see what the potential could be to really reach out to the people in Canada. And really, because people have kind of taken God out of their lives, there really, I believe, is an age of openness coming. And it's because people are being spiritually deprived, and they have a lot of affluence in their lifestyle, and they're realizing there should be more to life. And I'm certainly a testament to that myself. And there's a lot of people that I know that are in the same mindset. And to try to encourage a bit of active, organized work, I'm setting up a campaign in Ottawa, probably the first in 15 or 20 years in the area, on the Research Week in September 2013. So I really want to encourage those who are willing to brave the North in a beautiful time of the year to come and join me. This is a picture of Ottawa. I used to work just below the Parliament buildings here. It's certainly a beautiful city. It's the national capital. It's very bilingual, and the surrounding area is also very beautiful, very, very beautiful. This is near my backyard, actually, the house that I have. And in case you just didn't get it the first time, there's a campaign going on. So I do want to wrap things up with another mission opportunity that you may not think of. And here, maybe I can discuss a little bit with Tim Brunsfield that the end of the world or the end of the earth is not Mozambique, but likely northern Arctic in the northern Canada. And here, all these little dots you see are communities of people, as you probably would know them as Eskimos. There's probably about 40,000 people or so in these remote communities, and 80% of them, 80 or 90% of them are native. They don't particularly like to be called Eskimos because in their language it means eaters of raw meat, and they prefer the term Inuit, which means the people. So they're very proud people. They live in a beautiful part of the world, and the Northern Lights are just amazing to see, dancing in the skies. And like I said, they're a very proud people. And but unfortunately, as the technology has come into their communities, they're not able to live traditionally as they used to, and hunt and live off the land. So a lot of them are disenchanted. And just one generation after another, they're becoming depressed. Suicide is very high. If you have any background in social work, education, or nursing, there's a huge need up there, and they need God quite a lot in their lives. And there's not many people have gone up to reach out to them. And it's a very, very beautiful part of the world, one of the most stunning that I've certainly come across. So I'll just end by saying, I'll just ask you a question. Will you go to Canada? A.
Well, I was wondering if you were really from